Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I am your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Bruce Parkman. Bruce is the founder and chairman of the Mac Parkman Foundation, the host of the Broken Brains podcast, and a former Green Beret from the 7th and 10th Special Forces Group. Today's episode is brought to you by Precision Wellness Group. Precision Wellness Group can help you restore balance, unlock vitality through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based, personalized telemedicine. The founder and medical director of Precision Wellness Group is Dr. Taylor Bosley, who is an emergency medicine physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a Green Beret. I know there's a lot of information out there about hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, HRT, TRT. If you're confused and you want to get real answers from someone who knows what you've been through and knows where you need to get a hold of Taylor Bosley and the team at Precision Wellness Group. He's got the shared background to help you. He understands where you've been and what you need to feel your best. Reach out to Dr. Taylor Bosley at Precision Wellness Group. I will have links to their socials and website in the show description. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. No, totally unscripted. Bruce Parkman, thanks for coming on Lesser Known Operators.
Thanks for having me on the show, Nick. Appreciate
it. I came on your show. I think that episode will probably come out here pretty soon. And Broken Brains, right?
Yeah, Broken Brains, man. Really appreciated you having you on, man, and hearing about your story, dude.
No, it's good.
That was a real crappy story too, man. I was heartbroken for you.
It's all right. I had a conversation with the guy at the gym kind of about it today, and I was busted up about it for a long time. And then I realized, like, even getting to where I got to, that was never going to be enough. And then whatever I did in group, that was never going to be enough. And now I'm at a point where I just don't give a fuck. Like, I'm enjoying just trying to get where I want to go more than actually being where I was. So I'm just having a whole lot of fun right now, just in the journey. So I don't know. It all works out. I've gained a lot of perspective over it. I've calmed down a lot. I'm a lot nicer person, and I stopped drinking recently. So I don't know.
Helps.
Whatever. Yeah. But yeah, concussions will fuck you up. You have a lot more knowledge on the subject than I do.
I've woken up on rugby fields so many times with concussions, I didn't even pay attention to them. But no, I mean, the thing is, your journey's your journey, man. You never know. You fight fate, you fight karma, you're going to lose every time. When those doors are there, you got two choices, man. We can open them, or you can spend the rest of your life wondering what was on the other side, So, and I tell people all the time that, where I'm at in my life, and I've had one amazing life with a lot, I've had tragedies, and stuff. I mean, a lot pain, but in the end, I've just been opening those doors that God puts in front of me, and they've been amazing, man. A lot of times I've been scared, and you will be too as you keep going, right? Hey, what do I do next? I start a company. Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I go to China? Do I sail across the sea with my cat like that dude is now, But those are the doors, and the fact that you got to where you wanted to be, despite everything in your, you say, hey, I want to be a Green Beret, and you made that happen. Well, fate said, you're going to be a Green Beret, but not for very long, but at least you're going to be a Green Beret. Now, what do you do next? And I think that's what you're doing. You're finding your path, man. This is an amazing part of that path, to listen to other people's stories and hear them talk and be able to spread that word, man. So of us lesser known operators, man, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, spreading positivity, and like Denny has helped me. Like he's been the most supportive of everything. Man, if I got
Denny's
a question,
awesome.
I reach out to him. He'll answer me back. I mean, he's busy, but he'll get back to me when he has time. And what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And he's like, just fucking do it, man. Just do it. And that's been the most fun. But yeah, you'll respect this though. I don't get to wear the uniform anymore, but the day I got out, Sergeant Major got in the comments there, my Sergeant Major, and he says, you're always going to be a Green Beret. It never ends.
That's
And
true.
that's true. I can choose to be a better civilian Green Beret than I was uniformed. I can I can be that better like that, or just however it comes out. So it's not over, and I can represent regiment and I can keep being better because I feel like I'm better now than I was then. Like when you're doing that job, you're kind of an asshole, but that comes with the job itself, right? And now you don't have to be that stressed out person anymore.
Well, you don't have to grow up. That's one thing in the Army, man. You never have to grow up. That's why I never got married for 21 years. All I had to do is be a good commo guy, be a good intel guy, do good in combat, come back. I mean, I never had to grow up. I had no kids. I had no wife. And so, the thing is that, that the problem that we have is when we get out of the Army, are you going to be a Green Beret for the rest of your life, or are you going to move on to be what you're supposed to be? And I know a lot of guys that they've never left. I was just on a boat with 800 Green Berets. Some of them are still living their story. And that's what they did, man. I mean, I got nothing. I'm not judging. I don't judge anymore, man. But there's a lot of folks there that have moved on that used to be Green Berets, right? That are now CEOs or painters, or I'm a taxidermist, right? So, you like that Sergeant Major said, you'll always be a Green Beret. And right now, what you're doing to support the regiment is astounding. And if that's what is your journey and making you happy and all that, is awesome, man. But you're becoming more than a Green Beret. I mean, you're a podcast guy now. I mean, you're helping a nonprofit reach out to some of our most devastated brothers and help them find a path back. That's giving, bro. And and that says a lot about you. And that's more than just being a Green Beret, right? The Green Beret is a foundation. Green Beret gives us, I was one for 18 years, man. And that gives us that base that we need to go on and find whatever our path is that God's got planned for us. Or if you don't believe in God, whatever life has planned for you. And you'll always say, hey, yeah, I get into conversations and we'll talk. But they said, did you serve? I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I served. What you do? I was a Green Beret, Sergeant Major. Like, what? These guys never even knew. I was like, it's just it's business or whatever. It's and but what you're doing, man, is good stuff, man. Keep it up. Oh, good.
Everybody's got a different temperament, a personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this true crime. It was it? It was a documentary about serial killers last night, and the one detective on there, he was great. He was, and he goes, I was affected more by the victims than my partner was. He could handle it better, and he said the way he said, well, that's just my temperament. I can't help but care as much as I do. And you apply that, you can take that into any other arena. Some guys are going to go all into the lifestyle, in the military, of the whole thing, and they will become that, and that's just who they are. They'll mold into it, and they can't. And no matter what they do, they're not going to come out of it. And some guys will just do that. They can just jump in and jump out, jump into something else, jump out, and that's who they can. Some people can, and some people can't, and that's just a perspective from talking to people and doing these interviews and things that I've been able to gain. Everybody's fucking different. Like, you can't use your knowledge on person A with person Q. That they just don't apply. They're different fucking people. You have to be able to see through this lens of perspective of both sides of an argument, or why people do the way they were raised, or the town or the city or what school they went to, and all this other bullshit. So that's why before we started recording, I was in the comments the last 3 days, listening to our fellow veterans just trash one of my guests because she was a woman that had a Ranger tab and was proud of it. And just pisses me off so bad to see that, because up until that point, you know, everybody had been, oh, great advice, great guest, all this other shit. But I had a chick come on with a Ranger tab that has accomplished things, and these dudes are losing their fucking minds, and it pissed me off so bad. Like, what the fuck? Just because somebody accomplished something doesn't mean your accomplishments are any less.
Yeah, I mean that's a sticky one there, man. You know, I mean, there's no doubt that the young lady. I mean, my stepson's in the 82nd, and his platoon leader was a female with a Ranger tab, and she was an animal, man. She might have been taking some supplemental injections, but she was an animal, right? And I asked him, I said, man, so what's up, man? I said, I never worked with a girl before until I left the army. What's about? He goes, man, she's a badass dad. But she's honestly, she outrucks all of us, man. And now, the problem that I personally have with women in these roles is that they're all going to be 100% disabled. Okay. And that's just a fact. There's not a woman that doesn't go through Ranger school, that doesn't go through Marine Corps infantry, that doesn't become an 11, whatever, in the Army, that puts on a rucksack. And we can all argue, is it the right size rucksack? Is it heavy enough? Whatever. But these women all end up being 100% disabled. And the question is that what we want for our females, right? Are they doing the right thing? And so, that's my personal old man perspective on this. I give a woman a 128-pound rucksack that I used to jump out of planes with. That's not including my parachute. That's not including my rifle and my bullets and my water. I'm talking about 150, 160 pounds of gear. Can a woman handle that? No, no, no. Ain't gonna then put it up after a jump, put it on your back and rock 8 or 10 miles to an objective and do things. So, but in the end, your point, did she earn that tab? Well, she got it, man. She got it. She deserves that respect, whether you like it or not, and whether you're, old or young, she got the tab. And I think my stepson really changed my perspective on that, because he'd say, man, my platoon leader's a badass. I'm like, all right. And, so, and dude, that's just the nature today. I think people do need to be a little bit more forgiving, a little less judging, until they've met the chick, or they met the lady and had a beer with her. So if you got a Ranger tab, you probably drink beer. I sure hope so. And get to know her. I think she could probably change their mind, that she at least deserves their respect. Is Ranger school the same Ranger school we all went to? I don't know, man. I never went. It's the only school I never attended in the military. Um, and so don't know much about it. But I think that in this world, we got to stop, and the other thing I'll say is she served our country. Okay. So I don't give a shit what your position is, good or bad. That woman put on a uniform and she decided to be the best she could possibly be, which is a chick with a Ranger tab. Okay. That's pretty badass. That's a pretty badass girl. That's kind of the girl I'd like to date. I'm used to have this team leader on my team, and he's like, man, Parkman, he says, I just want to go to bed. I'm trying to hold back all my vulgarity as a sergeant major. I am actually a changed person with a lot of stuff I've been through. He says, man, I just want to bet a red-headed paratrooper, dude. That's all I want. I go, why? He goes, that's fantasy. I just want to do it. I was like, and I met a lot of badass paratrooper girls back in my day, and whether, you can take it as you want, but if she got through Ranger school, and she legitimately got through Ranger school, I know guys that actually went on dates. I know guys that went to Ranger school, got recycled so many flipping times that they got on dates and then ended up with a Ranger tab, on their third try. I'm like, all right, good for you. I never always said, hey, you made it. I don't care how you got there. And you did go on a date, but you made it. And that's all that counts, man. And I think we just got to be nicer to people and give her the respect she earned, and yeah, is it the same? I don't know, man. I just don't think it's worth
No,
all
we
the
don't. We
energy.
don't know. I'm not in charge. It's all in the fucking regulation, right? Like they make the shit. The people that are in charge, and you go accomplishment. You could accomplish it. It's on your ERB. Okay, there, done. Don't fucking cry about it. But here's why I'm trying back into like what you're getting into and all this other stuff, right? Is like we're trashing other veterans for no fucking reason. The line stops once we get out. Like who gives a fuck? Okay, the active duty force, they can deal with what they have going on while they're active duty. You're a veteran. It's over. Like, who gives a fuck? Be proud of your accomplishments and not tear each other down. We're killing each other at a fucking exceedingly, increasingly depth or rate of incline. And people are just take every opportunity to shit on one another in the comments when they don't think it'll affect anyone. When it does, of course, that shit affects people. And if you're not in a great place mentally, it's going to affect you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough to hear, man. But guys, boys, they're going to be who they are, man. And everybody's got a perspective, right? My perspective is one of more giving and more grace nowadays, man. And, hey, he's got a range tab. All right, man. Good on you.
Fuck yeah.
You know, and
I got to go to master driver when I was in, that's the coolest school I went to after I got my beret. So, over here I can forge a license like you wouldn't fucking believe. So that's all I got.
master driver. I used to
That's it,
hate
man.
that shit. When I was in scuba school, I was a bus driver, man. I was a qualified bus driver because I was in Panama, my first tour in Special Forces. New guy on the team had to get the deuce and half license because you had to drive the deuce and half with with the trailer that had all the guns and weapons across the Panama Canal to go to where we shot. And I was a new guy, I'm E5. I don't care. And then I end up in Swick. So I go down to Key West. Like, who's got a bus driver license? And I'm like, ah, shit. Why? Well, in scuba school back then, we were the first class in a new pool, but we actually ate breakfast in another Navy installation. And it was like, man, it was wild. It was like Boca Chica, I think. I can't remember. It was a haul. So I raised my hand, and I'm one of three dudes. Well, the other two clowns don't make it through pool week. So guess who the only flipping bus driver is? And now I'm driving. All my buddies are racked out in the back, taking naps, and so I would take that bus up on the curbs. I would rake branches of trees down the side of it, slam on the brakes, bounce them off. They're like, Parkman, I go, fuck you guys, man. I'm taking back there taking a nap. I was like, that sucks. Oh, man, I used to hate being but, somebody's got to do it, right? And, yeah,
Yeah.
you just gave me that flashback when you said master driver. I was like, oh, God, I used to have that little cardboard piece of license we had.
Yeah. I think that was the only license I couldn't forge was the bus driver one because you had to go to a civilian school to get it or some shit like that.
To
Um,
drive an army bus?
no, the big bus, like the full size school bus. You had to go to an off post school or something like that. I don't really remember correctly, but you had to go to a separate school to be able to drive a more than 15 passenger van.
I'll tell you what. My team sergeant probably typed that on my license just to make sure he had a bus driver on the team. Nobody went to
With a
schools.
typewriter,
Oh
with a
God,
typewriter.
yeah. No, it was actually a
Yeah,
typewriter. You could put it in the typewriter, and then and then he just forged H1. I'll guarantee you, I never went to a bus driving course. I just ended up with on my license because and then at Swick, I was out of Camp McCall, so we had 15 packs vans going back and cattle cars and all this stuff. So no
Yeah.
fun, but still
Oh,
fun.
it's still fun. All of it. It's all fun. And even the shitty times you look back, because I woke up this morning, it was a little cold in the house and I just kind of was sitting there. I was like, oh, man, remember that time at selection when it was just pouring straight up and down rain, just as thick as it could be. And the cadre were like, they're huddled underneath their camper overhang and they're just looking out there yelling at us and nobody's getting up because it's fucking freezing and raining on us. And I was like, man, that was a lot of fun.
No selection for me either. That was before selection.
That was, yeah.
My buddies
So
put that
that's,
together back in the day.
yeah, because you got out in 2001. And so you got in 81, you started?
Came in 80, did
80.
3 years as a grunt, and then I was
Selection
drafted
started in
as.
83, right?
So I started, well, in 1983. Here's a good story for you. My first sergeant, James Braswell III, was a Mac V SOG guy. And so when I started in the Army, Everybody I had, my squad leaders, even some of my team leaders, were all Vietnam vets. CIBs everywhere, dude. And these guys were flipping crazy, man. And they were just trying to get to that 20, dude. They would smoke, drink all the coffee in the world, yell at you, kick you in the ass, beat you up. They didn't care, man. They just trying to get to their 20, and you weren't getting in their way. So at first sergeant, I was in 3rd of the 41st Infantry in Germany, and I went to reenlist. Only came in for 2 years just to get away from my dad. And they said, hey, man, you got to reenlist. You're going to have to get out. I go, get out what? They go, get out of the Army, dude. It's like, I said, but I've only been here a year. They go, I know. And you only got 6 months left. So what you going to do? So I was like, shit. So they said, hey, we got Ranger bat slot for you. And I had no confidence back then. I said, oh, man, I'm not ready for that, dude. Man, I'm just a drunken grunt. I said, what about the 82nd? I'll jump out of planes. They go, nah, full up. They go, how about the 101st? I go, they got a badge? They go, yeah, airsoft's off. They got a badge. I'll go to 101st. So here I am in 101st. Got my little wings of the eagle, right? And my first sergeant calls me in the office and hands me 2 manila folders. I'm like, the fuck, Top? He goes, what's up, specialist? I said, hey, I'm hanging out. He goes, not anymore. He says, you better open that one up. So I open it up. It's chapter 7. He's like, you're kicking me out of the Army, Top? He goes, you, Parkman, he goes, you're like the best dude I got in the field, but in garrison, you're amazing. He says, you're stupid, dude. You're drinking all the time. You're fighting. You can't iron your uniform. He said, you're a mess, dude. And he said, I'm done with you, man. He said, by that time I had my 4th Article 15. So I was on the highway to hell, as they say. And he's like, I'm done with you. I said, well, what's the other one for? He says, you better look at door number 2. So I open it up, Special Forces application. I go, what's up, Top? He goes, look here, Sonny. The only place you're crazy as is going to make it in this man's army is Special Forces. He says, you've talked to me about it. He says, I wore that funny green hat. He says, so what you going to do? I like, man, can I think about it? He goes, oh, no, right now. And he's got his coffee cup. You can smell the whiskey coming off it, man. He'd always drank his whiskey, and I was like, damn, Top, man. I go home, man. My old man will bury me. I said, I'm going to try that Green Beret shit. I'm going to try that stuff. He goes, all right. And he took the chapter paperwork and he says, I'm going to put this right in my drawer until I see orders. So anyways, I was 11 hotel at the time. It was under strength MOS, believe it or not. So I couldn't get orders. So I'm up at division headquarters like, look, man, I need orders to go to Special Forces training or my first sergeant's going to kick me out of the Army. They're like, what? So bigger than hell, the MOS balanced out. I got my orders and, I got the jump school and I think it was March of 84. And then I went right into the Q course. But I was drafted. My first sergeant drafted me. And I found him 3 years ago. I said, look, man, if you didn't make me, I was just started thinking of all the blessings I've had, even with the loss of my son, my beautiful wife, my daughters, 18 years as a Green Beret, making sergeant major with 4 Article 15s. Oh, and I threw a DUI on top of that shit too, right? Because you have to have one of those to be a sergeant major. And I'm like, what a life I've had, all because that first sergeant made me make a choice. And I remembered this for years, right? And my buddy went and found him, one of my good friends. He's a PI now. And I called up his house. And I go, hey, I said, and first of all, this lady answers the phone. She goes, hello? I said, hey, is Top Braswell there? She goes, I'm sorry, Sonny. She's sleeping. I go, ma'am, wait. I said, your husband made me make a decision in 1983 that changed my life. And I just wanted to say thank you. She goes, hold on there. So he comes on the phone. He goes, hello? I go, Top Braswell. He goes, yeah. I said, hey, this is Bruce Parkman, man. And back in 1983, you made me make a decision. It changed my life. And, I own this company now. And I got this wonderful boy and my beautiful girl. Man, I'm going nuts. He goes, Sonny, I don't remember you. I said, Top, that's not what's important. What's important is that I let you know I said thank you and that you changed my life. And he said, okay, boy. I'll talk to you later. I said, thanks a lot, Tom. Hung up. And I wrote him a letter and I just sent it to him and all that. But I mean, that's how we impact other people's lives. And that's why, to your point, I am done with the way the military treats people. The way that those people kind of got on that Ranger girl's butt. The Army right now will chuck you for nothing. And nobody takes responsibility for these kids and looks at them as works in progress, right? Because screwing up is a human skill. It's all how we get better. So how we become better by screwing up. Learning comes from experience. Experience comes from screwing up. That's it. And when these kids screw up, man, the Army bounces them for like no, back in my age, they just beat them up. You know, can't do that no more. And we're losing a lot of good kids to that. They just need an ass whooping, if you ask me. What do I know?
Yeah, the that's a lot bigger discussion, I think, especially generational changes. And I had on Dave Walton, Dr. Dave Walton, the Task Force Voodoo. He does the Ruck Up or Shut Up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like he's just explaining to me the pool of even special of candidates just to even enlist in the military just keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And now it's not only it's we're way late to the party with SFAS just getting an Instagram page and trying to manipulate the pool getting in, but the pool of people able to do these things just keeps shrinking and shrinking. And so there's a lot that goes into that. And yeah, there's no
Well,
sweeping
you can
anything under the
dive into
rug.
that if you want. But
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get there, but there's no sweeping anything under the rug anymore. They'll just throw you away. But
no,
yeah,
it's
I
just
love
shitty
to hear
leadership. That's all. It's
it.
just leadership that doesn't care about their people. Because when you care about their people, you take care of them. Now, there are those that will fall out no matter what you do for them. They're just going to leave the Army. But there is a whole bunch of young kids out there that need guidance. They've never had it. They need mentorship. They've never had it. And they need examples. And unless we provide that to them, if we don't care enough, and that's the difference between special forces where we build those, I ain't going to say that. It's the Army. The Army builds those bonds. Leadership has to respect them, and that's where I think, we could do a little bit better job, tell you the truth.
Yeah, yeah. It's I I think there was a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff lost with the way that Army leadership, from the top, like I don't know. It's just with everything, an officer controls a unit, right? And if the officer doesn't trust their NCOs, then the NCOs are like, what the fuck am I doing here? And that'll just wreck things from the top down. One person, the person in charge, can ruin a whole battalion or a whole brigade that way, loss of confidence and shit. But that's always been, I don't know. I think there's just a lot lost
Or the
over
spineless sergeant major that doesn't stand up for
that
his men.
doesn't stand up for self because he's just a
Yep.
yes man. But
Or a politician. A lot of our command sergeant majors, this is who they are, man. I mean, I never got to make that. I was told I'd never make it. That's all right, And I wasn't that guy anyways. And there have been a few that stood up over the years, but by and large, our command sergeant majors, they gotta grow a pair when it comes down to taking care of the boys. And I think that I don't know. I was disappointed in a large amount of them as they got older, or I got older, But yeah, taking care of people is a skill, man. I mean, if leadership, there's no book. We all have our own leadership styles that we build as we get and older. And the leadership style I have right now as a CEO is completely different than what I had when I was a team sergeant or a sergeant major. And they change, man. They change, but in the end, I have a different way of caring about my people. My people are technicians. My people are women, and my people are, young, smart kids that write software now. They're not the kind of boys like you and I that, that were back there, or the women. I mean, the women in the 80s were just tough as dudes, man. When it came to drinking and raising hell, man, they were animals, dude. It was so much fun back in the day. Oh, my God. The Green Beret Club, all the girls there would drink with you, pitchers of beer, just it was different mentality back then, but it's when I talk to kids in the Army right now, it's all about leadership, and I do have no idea what happens to people when they become, I don't know, an E7, E8, or 04, 05, 06, and why. Taking care of their people, it's top down, as you say. It's the focus is whatever the focus is, and it's not the mission and our people, and that's what it should be. An army fights, drinks, and fornicates. That's it. You don't
Kills
allow them to
people and
do those
breaks
three
stuff. Yeah.
things, then you don't have much of an army, if you ask me. You got to allow it. Got to allow it. I told one of the long legislators. I go, you know how to fix this, which is, since Trump got in, we kind of fixed the recruiting solution. I said, you know how to fix it even more? He goes, what? I said, lower the drinking age to 18 if you join the military, only on the military base. Bring back the enlisted clubs that you got rid of for some stupid reason, and make the NCOs do their job and police up their kids. You'd have them lined up a mile long. I could drink now 3 years early. Yeah. I mean, heck, we all know the deal. You're going to carry a gun. You're going to defend your army, defend your country. Have a beer, right? No, there's not a person in this country that does not feel that is an option. That is not an option. Why? They should be able to drink, man. Or what? Jumping out of planes and blowing shit up and going to war? Yeah, they can have a beer. It's all about how do you control the situation. And then I had one of the generals, a good old friend of mine, goes, what are you going to do about all the sexual harassment and sexual claims and all that stuff's going to happen? And I was thinking about that till the other day. Another guy that I mentioned that to, he goes, what? Are you shitting me? Rape goes on in every American college with underage kids in this country, and nobody raises hell about that. He says there's no different. And that doesn't even have anybody that cares, right? I mean, there is all kinds of uncrazy stuff going on in colleges. Those kids have access to alcohol the day that they walk into that dorm, and they're all drunk and they're all raising hell. And that level of debauchery goes on throughout every university in this country. And yet we're going to be worried about it on a military base where we have at least, I think, a little bit higher moral factor, and our focus on sexual harassment is there. But I was kind of surprised by that, answer to me. So what are you going to do about all the sexual harassment? Like, who cares? It's going to work itself out, And it's not that I don't care about sexual harassment. I just don't think it's as big a factor when, men and women are told to respect each other and let's go have a beer, Let's not get, blind drunk and end up in places that we don't want to end up. And that's, and so that's the fine line that we walk. And we have a military. You want a military to win wars, then a military has to get in touch with its primal self and be prepared to fight. And you can't do that when you got all kinds of, when you're not allowed to fight, drink, and fornicate, man. It's just the way it is, dude. I mean, it's, and I don't say that in a way that means that everybody's got to get, all crazy, but though, an army fights when it's in touch with its primal nature, and the guys got to get in touch with that, and that's, it's just the way it is. It's not a corporation. You're not going to win wars as a corporation.
No, but it is a psychopath and it acts accordingly. And it treats its people like that as well. But is there any path back to that with now we're getting into talking about drawing down the force and making it more effective? And we're going to start making cuts to units. I mean, they're going to stand down 2 SFAB units. Our unit isn't even fully manned. This is unconfirmed, so it's not coming from me, but the 6th team is being eliminated from the companies, supposedly.
Really?
Supposedly. I haven't confirmed that yet, but I've heard a rumor that they're going down to 5 teams. So is that just how are we going to deal with drawing it down and trying to become and change things when we're going to start cutting people out?
It all goes back, to the mission. I mean, the guys, when I was a company sergeant major, I had the best company commander in the world. Not because he let me run the company, but, because he listened to me. It was like, sir, the men, when we ran, we ran the first, took the first troops into Kosovo to set up everything out there. So, sir, we got to drink. We're going to be dealing with local indigenous populations. And he helped me find an exception to the policy that we got in place so that our guys could drink. Because they're going to drink anyways. So let's cover their ass, right? Let's give them a reason to drink. Let's give them a reason to be drinking. So if they get caught by the conventional army, they don't get in trouble, right? Because we were out there in the middle of nowhere. They weren't around, but you never know. So, I mean, I don't know how we get back to that as leaders that want to fight, drink, and when I say fornicate, I mean, that's what an army that's what Army does, right? Whether you got Penthouse magazines, I don't even know if you have Penthouse on base anymore. I don't even think you have those magazines back there. And they used to fly off the shelf in the back in the day. But that's you got to get back in touch with the true nature that we're going to need when we go to war, right? You got to be mean. You got to be mean. You can't be nice. Not in war. We all know that. And we'll talk about training and how we got to balance that out so we stop some of the mental illness that's being, that our troops have. But we got to get back. And that's what every time I talk to a young kid, whether it's a conventional person or from special forces, whatever, right? They're like, dude, it just doesn't feel like an army, right? It feels like a corporation. I didn't join a corporation. I want to be in the Army. I want to blow shit up. I want to be treated like an adult. I want to, fight, drink, and fornicate, right? I want to be in the Army, right? And I think that's where we can change the focus. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with this new SecDef guy. I mean, I don't know. He talks a lot of that game, right? Now we got to get the officers and senior enlisted people to trust that they're not going to get bounced by, having, organizations that take care of their men and their women, right? And allow them to make mistakes. And alcohol is just part of being in the military. And it's always been that way. And you take that away, then you take away a release mechanism that everybody needs, especially under the stress of combat. I don't even know how these kids got through Iraq and Afghanistan. I know when I was on both invasions, I was drinking. I found that booze, man. There's Christians everywhere in Iraq. They had booze, right? And I was a contractor. I had a little bit of an edge. But every one of our allies had beer. I mean, you go to the Brit compounds, you go to anybody's compound, they had beer, but they controlled their people. And so there's the other aspect of allowing young men and women to drink. Did you ever hear of the British rules? You go to any British overseas base, they can drink all they want from 7 until 10 in the evening. So I'm sitting there with this British command sergeant major. He found out I was a sergeant major. He's SAS. And he says, all right, man, bar's closing in 1 hour. I said, 10 o'clock. He goes, yeah. I said, why? He goes, it has been statistically proven, mate, that you cannot drink enough in 3 hours where you can't get up the next day and perform. He says, and I'll tell you what, he says, if we catch you drinking after this, we'll put you in the brig, man. We fuck you up. I'm like, wow, dude, really? So we called it the British rules from then on. And so, but they've got it kind of figured out. Where, hey, you gotta allow the boys and girls to have fun. And if they have too much fun, make them pay the price. Make them run. Make them dig a foxhole hungover. Don't give them paperwork.
Yeah, someone, not me, but somebody that looks exactly like me, sent a care package to Afghanistan once. And a friend of mine, not my friend, but a friend that looks just like him, may have consumed everything that was in that care package in one night. And he sends me a video 2 days later of him flipping a tire across the fob. And not a small tire, a quite large deuce and a half, or what is it called? I forget the name of the truck, but flipping the tire across
FMTV, LMTV.
Yeah, LMTV, that's it. The tire just back and forth. And I go, well, shouldn't have overdone it there, bud. He's had too many Skittles,
man. Yeah,
paid the price.
Pay the price, man. But don't give them paperwork. Don't mess up their career. I had the first foxhole dug at 10th Special Forces Group because I caught one of my E6s with a tongue stud after I told him to take it out. So I'm like, all right, get your team sergeant. I said, be in my room with a shovel and a pair of gloves. He's like, what? I said, get your fucking team sergeant. So he comes in, team sergeant, great guy. Unfortunately, it was cut in half by an EFP in, I think it was Iraq. And later on, I was like, hey, I said, told your boy about his tongue stud. He goes, yes, sir, Major. I said, well, because I said, hey, how's it going? And he's like, I said, open up your mouth. He's like, I said, open it. And I grabbed him by the throat. I said, God damn it. And I was like, that's it. I said, out back. So we walk up back right behind my company. And I said, hey, I said, what's your MOS there, Staff Sergeant? He goes, 18 Charlie. I go, oh, 18 Charlie. I said, what is the perfect dimensions of a fighting position? He goes, 6x6x6. I said, that's it. Start digging. He looks at me, and the team sergeant looks at me. He goes, right here? I go, oh, right now. And man, for the rest of the day, everybody's coming over. Sergeant Major, what's going on? I said, and the colonel will come. I said, sir, and COPD, get out. My company commander was like freaking out, man. And I said, come find me when he's done. So about 4:00, knock on my door. Say, yeah. He says, Sergeant Major, Foxhole's done. I said, we go out in the back. I said, jump on in. He jumps in. He looks up and he says, I said, Staff Sergeant. I said, I probably could have given you some stupid paperwork and messed your career up. I said, isn't this a better alternative? He goes, yes, Sergeant Major. I said, well, I'm kind of a flashbang. I said, we're done. Fill this sucker up. And don't let me catch that thing in your mouth again. He goes, roger that. I mean, that story got all over the place, man. But, the bottom line is, it's just that this, our shotgun knee-jerk reaction when troops mess up is to burn them. And they need to be taught, they need to learn a lesson. That lesson should not cost them their career. Even a DUI, man, honestly, you didn't get, you didn't kill nobody, right? I mean, it's a mistake. But, there's my entire life has been built around a 2-strike rule. You can make 1,000 mistakes. And I've had men under my command that have made a lot of them. And I've made probably more than everybody put together. But, man, you make the same mistake twice. You haven't learned. And that's where you got to start. That's when you got to, hey, man, if you can't learn, man, you can't be here no more. That's the way it is. But, these guys got to be allowed the chance to make mistakes because it really limits how they perform and, in training. It limits their perspective on the Army because, who doesn't want to walk around all day being afraid they might make a mistake,
So the drinking, like that chapter's closed, over, done with
Good
that,
for you.
never going
Yeah,
back.
me too.
But I do 99.5% agree with you about most of what you said because I see my peers, they have these beautiful training programs to get you ready for selection and meal plans and all this other stuff and train everything. And good for them. They're doing a great job. They got a great business going. And then I think back to what me and my peers going through the course together did. And we would show up to a course, pass it, and then go get obliterated until we had to be back in formation like a week later or whatever the fuck.
And
And that was the release. Like
yeah.
it was all high stress, and then you just let off all the steam, and
Mm-hmm.
we were just ready to go again when we would show up for the next block of instruction or the next course.
You can do that.
And
I remember coming out of the bars. Well, we'll call them girly bars. Or I've been all night, been up drinking, having fun, getting in a cab, and on my way to PT, changing in the back of the cab in Panama, jumping out of the cab, running up, throwing my clothes in a plastic bag under the barracks because they're all World War II barracks, about 2 foot up ground, falling into formation. My team sergeant looked down. I was sitting there, just swirling a little bit. And then we had this dock called Dock 45, and you had to run up this massive hill at Fort Davis and down to the back to the canal, and then turn around and run back up, right back down. You can do anything in your 20s. You can do anything, man. You can, I got, gosh, so many booze stories, man. But those, to your point, I don't drink anymore, but I drank back then. It's how you were raised, man. That's what the gray beards taught us. I remember the first time I was in Honduras and Tom Sneed got a hold of me. He goes, "You the new guy here?" I go, "Yes, sir." And he's a highly respected master sergeant. I'm an E6. He goes, "Let me introduce you to some of the best rum in Honduras." And we had a bottle of Florida Cognac. I'll be darned. It's the middle of the afternoon. I go, "Right now, Master Sergeant?" He goes, "Oh, right now." We creamed that bottle. Like, wow. Love special forces, It's just, but that we are that culture, not us, the whole Army, man. The Army rolls on this stuff, and I don't know how you're a military without it, really. I mean, or without access to it. Doesn't mean you have to drink. I'm not saying. I mean, because we had people that we called them designated drivers, but they didn't drink, right? We took them everywhere we could. Hey, man, you going out tonight? Yeah, come on, man. Wow, you go with us. We'll buy you all your Cokes. And but it is. I don't say it's an expectation, but I think you earn the right. And with the stress that you're under, the stress that we put ourselves through, and especially when you're downrange. And I didn't fight these wars, man. I retired in early '01. My war was El Salvador a long time ago. But when with denying troops a release mechanism, and you wonder why we have so much sexual harassment. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, right? I mean, in the absence of booze, what comes next, right? And what else is there? And gosh, what do you expect from young kids that are locked up in a ball of stress on a fob, where there's just nothing to do if you're not going out, right? If you don't leave the wire, and a large percent of our troops didn't leave the wire. Gosh, what do you expect? And it's I just I don't know, man. I'm just an old timer, and I really think that we're not doing our troops service. And when you say, you can't drink in combat, I think that is just, I think it's been devastating. I remember when I took the first troops into Kosovo, we were going through San Vito. I don't know if I should tell this story, but it's a good story. And on the way, I just got attached to the unit. There's a whole story about how I got on the mission because some pansy sergeant major didn't want to take it. And I was like, oh, man, I'll take it. And so, anyways, we're the first guys going on the ground. We're in San Vito, and we end up in Macedonia waiting to go across the border. And there's all kinds of other stories about me, because I wouldn't let my guys. I told my guys, no body armor, no helmets. We're not in combat. Everybody else walking around all stiff necked with his shit all on it. And I'm like, nah, not me. And I got some arguments with some sergeant majors over it. But I found out. I looked over one day, and they were crushing pallets of beer with these claws, like that, some attachment from a bulldozer, right? And I pulled this guy over because when I saw beer getting crushed, man, I was kind of heartbroken. I'm like, what is going on? And he goes, the Americans are taking over. We got to get rid of all this beer. So I pulled one of my E7s over. I go, hey, we're taking off tomorrow. We're getting on the helicopters going down range. You're staying here. He goes, for what? I go, you see that beer over there? He goes, yeah. I said, I want you to pack an ISU full, and I want you to get it on, then lock it up. And then I want you to ride that pallet, escort that ISU to wherever we're at inside of Kosovo. He's like, Roger that, Sergeant Major. So my company commander never knew this, but we had this massive cooler of beer, right, in the thing, and I would dole it out to the guys that earned it because it was all support guys. All my teams are out on the bout, right? But I just believed that much in treating my men like men, okay, and treating my women. We didn't have any girls with us at that time, but treating them like women, right, like adults. And if you can't handle the responsibility, then you really shouldn't be in the Army, right? And not saying that you have to drink, but learn how to drink responsibly, but just, man, pop a top and chill, right? And just you've earned it. You've jumped out of a plane, yeah. You did combat operations. I mean, gosh, man, those guys deserve drink so much back in the day. I don't know how they did it, man, honestly, but I don't know. It's just it's an old school thing with me, man. It's been around. It bothers me to this day because I know kids that are in the Army and they're all drinking like savages, man. But it's like it's all illegal. Like, come on, man. No, I think we could do better. I think we could treat our people better, man. I'm off it.
Yeah, there's well, I think it's when it goes too far, right? Because it always tends to go too far
Yeah, it does.
because into what your kind of your mission now, right? Broken brains and all that is. Are you kind of up on the new operator syndrome and what all that's entailed with that? Are you spun up on that?
Well, I mean, I've read up on it. I haven't read the book, but the premise of it is spot on. But I think it overlooks the issue of repetitive blast exposure to a certain degree. It says it's part of it, but I think we need to take a deeper look at the amount of exposure because what we're seeing in terms of exposure when on the repetitive blast exposure. I mean, no doubt that their stress levels, everything is compounded by what we do, what we've done, what you kids have done in the last 20 years in these wars, right? Is just, what our kids have done, right? Is amazing. It's also exposed them to unprecedented levels of repetitive blast exposure, which for the uninitiated here on this podcast are those times when we eat the blast, whether it's a charge on the door, throwing a grenade, shooting a 50 cal, all
Artillery,
those
field
actions.
artillery, pulling that
Field
strings.
artillery, tankers,
Yeah,
right? EOD,
yeah.
master breachers, range safety officers, right? So, and there's no doubt that operator syndrome in my book actually exists. But I was not satisfied with let's just say, the amount of, what's the right word? Um, I did not think they gave repetitive blast exposure enough consideration as part of the mental health side of things, because there's a direct correlation with a damaged brain and mental health, and how that damaged brain, either by RBE or just stress levels, you know, you know, influences everything else: your testosterone levels, your fatigue, your fight or flight, all that stuff. And there's no doubt, to me, there's a correlation there. But it is something to watch out for. But it's all about how do you treat it, and how do you keep our guys with the fighting edge, and because there is a path ahead on this, there is a path ahead for sure. And
Well, that's why I think like where it goes too far is I don't want to put my hand up and say I need help. So how do you treat it? You go to the shopette and you cover it up by drinking too much.
that happens a lot. Happens
Yeah.
a lot. There's other ways. And I had a great girl on the podcast explain that to me. Um, when we start, when we start confusing, because the issue is that when we live high impact, adrenaline charged lives, right? That we get hooked on that. There's all kinds of dopamine and other, chemical sensors that stay tuned up, and that makes you, this is your life. And when you're not in that moment and you're not tuned up, you have no idea what to do, right? You just lose it. So guys they search for that, that, and whether it's love, which is usually means it's lust, right? They're always hunting, girls. Could be, adrenaline charged lifestyles. It could be booze. It could be other narcotics. It could be all kinds of things. And what it emanates from is the impact of their lifestyle on the chemical neurotransmitters that they have in their brain, especially if it's been compounded by repetitive blast exposure. So, yeah, there's the issue is pretty immense when we start looking at what we do for a lifestyle. But I will say that my generation doesn't have these problems, and I as much. And the people that I know that have had them, including one suicide, he was a master breacher, range safety officer at Sodic for years, repetitive blast exposure. Okay. And we were the Cold War Army. I retired in early '01. I did a year and a half on the ground in El Salvador, but that was training G's and going out with them. We're not fighting all the time, or we never fought at all. We just went hunting dudes, man, and couldn't find them, right? But we're talking about, high impact combat operations and an enormous amount of stress. And I really am upset with the VA and our military leadership, notwithstanding SOCOM, which is, they have taken the lead on addressing this issue, but it took us years to get there. And during those years, way too many brothers and sisters have been lost. And we have not. And for us to start understanding this now, I wouldn't say it's a crime, but it's pretty criminal in its output, which is we have over 130, 140,000 dead kids. And we have not taken care of our veterans. And and nothing's changing right now. You don't have access to all the things that can fix operator syndrome. How do you fix operator syndrome is not with pills. It's not with therapy. And that's all you get from the VA, bro. Okay. I mean, the VA won't even pay for testosterone. I buy it. If you're over 60, get on it, man. Little pitch there. You just get on it, man. Change your life. But and of course they'll give, you go to an age clinic, they'll give it to you for low T when you're in 30s, and you shouldn't be touching it in your 30s. Okay. But the issue is that everything that can impact operator syndrome, whether it's HBOT, vagus nerve stimulation, psychedelic treatments, brain supplementation programs, stellate ganglion block, they're not in the VA system. They're not in the TRICARE system. So we create these problems when we put our young men and women in these situations for years, decades, right? I talked to one guy, just happened to join his Ranger Battalion in 1998. Good Lord, the amount of shit that boy saw, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in the end, we've got to take care of our kids, man. And that's why, we've got legislation up there with Derek Van Orden right now, trying to make all these things available, paid for, free, no out of pocket, so that these guys and girls can put their lives back on track because they have not committed a crime. They signed a dotted line. They went to war. They did their jobs as best they know. And they came back, and we owe them. We owe them this, and it's a shame. And it's a tragedy. And I meet with veterans all the time and the foundation that I run, talking to these kids. And they're snorting heroin, multiple suicide attempts, bags of drugs, like gallon bags, 15 drugs, 17 drugs, because we treat symptoms. We don't treat the cause. And a lot of operator stress syndrome has to do with what's impacting the brain, adrenal fatigue, neuroinflammation, repetitive blast exposure, all this other stuff that our men and women deal with, right? And then we give them drugs and therapy, and then we wonder why they drink all the time. We wonder why their marriages are falling apart. We're wondering why they lose their kids don't like them. You wonder why they're jerks to everybody, they're asses, whatever, and we did this. We put them in that situation, and we've got to fix this, man. That's what I think.
And that's not restricted to combat or deployments, right?
Nope.
I got hurt in fucking training. Like you do these PM, there's all of the shit on the front side is equal on the backside for going on these things. Way more people get hurt in training than get hurt in actual combat, or killed, I should say. And
great point.
That's
great
why
point.
I brought up field artillery, right? To get certified as, or what do they call it? Table 8, or something like that. I forget my field artillery days, but, get certified as a 13 Bravo, you got to shoot a shitload of fucking rounds from a 155 or a howitzer. And that is a large explosion pretty close to your fucking head.
The issue becomes, Nick, is that the whole cause of this 80 to 90%, well, let me put it this way. I know for a fact, and I've talked to experts, that we have men coming out of tier 1 units with psychological illnesses that have never been in combat because we train too hard. Okay. And that's where we need to look at, say, all right, do we need to have the charge on the door every day? Do we need to do it come on, man. Do we really need to practice that realistic? Once you put the charge on the door and you know how to do it, do you got to practice it every day? Do you need to flash the room every day before you go in? Do you need the live fire every time you go in? Everybody's all the men. Oh, yeah, man. There's the only way to do it. Well, I come from the 1980s Army. We had sticks, for crying out loud. It was Ronnie Reagan was just coming in. They gave us bayonets, and a few bullets. We trained every now and then, but we trained. We went out in the woods. We humped our ass off these tow missiles we got in helicopters, but we hardly ever shot bullets. But we trained.
It's just a money thing.
Well, it was a money thing. Reagan was starting the budget coming back. He started, buying tanks and all the stuff that we didn't have. After, a lot of people understand, after the 1975, when Vietnam ended, the Army was basically decimated in terms of budget and training. You talk to the old Vietnam vets, man. Oh, gosh, they didn't have anything. And when I joined in 1980 as an infantryman, man, we went to the range 3 times a year. How often does an infantryman or a special operator go to the range now? All the damn time. Okay. Yeah. Right. And so that is the issue that we have to take a look at, because we still have to field the most lethal fighting force in the world, and we will. Okay. But it's all how we train. Most of our exposure, you can't control combat, and you won't. You will never. You're going to get dinged up in combat. So we have to learn how to train smarter. So we're just as effective, just as efficient. But do you need to shoot 10 AT4s? The guys that I've talked to with these AT4s, they couldn't feel their fingers at the end of the day because they didn't want to bring it back. And who doesn't like to shoot something that makes I never shot one, but it's got this huge concussive wave. I've eaten enough charges where you got that feeling. It's like, oh yeah, man, I got this, man. Let's do it again. Because we think it's harmless. And they're not. They're not when it happens to you thousands of times. And now that we're understanding this, what does the future hold for how we train? Now, if you're a tanker and you're an artillery guy, okay, you got to do your gunnery practice. You got to be able to put that round on range, and that's computer driven. How often do you got to pull the string? All right. And so the other part of this is now that we recognize this, how do we take care of it when you're done? And this is what I do. This is why I wrestle with NFL players right now, because on contact sports, for all of you out there, is how I lost my son. And it's that the boy behind me up there, right? He played too much contact sports, football, then hockey, then wrestling, and then snowboarding for 10 and a half months a year, right? Take the contact out of practice. We have kids, we have safer sports, man, and they can play. We take the practice, we take the repetitive blast exposure, not all of it, but we minimize it where we find that point where it's still lethally shit, man, but you're still in that building all the time. You're changing the doors, you're swapping bullet traps, you're in there, you're practicing, right? You still got to hit your targets, but there's suppressors now, you can shoot, you can, whatever you got to do, right? But the issue is when you come back after 20-something years and your brain is damaged, and we can scan for this now. We have 4 different scans. You get the Amen scan, DTI scan, functional MRI, QEG, right? All of them can be scanned. With your DD214, that scan, and something like a GBEV, a generalized blast exposure variable, which I have an Excel spreadsheet that anybody can use to calculate their own, all right? You can now go to VA and go, hey, man, I've kind of been dinged up. And the VA now should say, great. Now that you validated this, here is a Chinese menu of options that can help heal your brain. And we're not going to give you one flipping SSRI unless, there is a place for drugs, but it's not for the rest of your life. And we have medicated our kids to the point where they just don't want to be here no more. And you can't blame them. If you've ever taken these things, when I fell apart 3 years ago, they gave me this, I don't know, Boost Peril, some pill. I was driving down the road and I could not, I was like, what am I doing? I was in a cloud. They had my wife on so much stuff after our son died. Man, she couldn't feel life. And we're doing this to kids that serve their country. And it is horrible. And I run into these kids all the damn time. So to your point, long story, yes, we are training ourselves into mental illness when we train too much, too realistically. Okay. We need to change that because in combat, we ain't leaving nothing on the field, bro. We're going to go in there and then people are going to die and there's going to be, body parts everywhere and we're coming home alive. And you have to train with that realization. You have to get it and you have to get it hard. But the effects of blast on our brains, did you know up until last year, there was not a blast code? No, yeah, last year, there was not a blast code for your brain. You had a blast code for your colon, right? For your stomach, for your lungs, for all these body parts. Nothing for your brain. They just came out with one. How many vets know that? How many vets know they get disability? But you can't get treatment. That is the bad part of this whole thing. And that's why I give seminars or whatever. Just for example, on a GBEV, I calculated my GBEV. The number of units that is estimated to be the start of brain damage is 200,000. I'm a Cold War guy. I think I was between 1.4 and 1.8 million. Okay. We're having people coming out of special operations right now at 32 million units. Okay. And we think that they're going to be okay because that's the way the Army treats you. Okay. Thank you for your service. Here's your flag, retirement ceremony. Love you, man. Have a great life. It's not all that bad, but in the conventional Army, it's just like that. In SOF, we get a lot of attention, man. There's a lot of people that love us and we get a lot of extra bennies that, the other guy, but still look at how many boys that we lose all the time, man. The conventional Army is even worse. Like, thank you. Bye-bye. You're out of
here. Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Right.
But I've said this, and it's been proven true by people in the comment section or just generally in the military, right? Everybody's in a race to have the shittiest time. like I had a shittier or harder time than you. And I can hear like the pushback on like that shit. No, we have to train this way because that's how we've always done it, and that's how we win these wars. Like, shut the fuck up. Why are we trying to have the worst time? Like, if you say how if you had a bad time in your unit, then somehow you're saying you're better than somebody else who had a worse time or things like that. And gets back to like being nice to each other. Like, listen, guys, we all had a fucking shitty time. It was just a different version of a shitty time. That shit's over with. We're out now. It's time to try and fix the shit now that we're
Well,
out.
it goes back to the comments that your people are making on that young lady with the Ranger tab. Okay. We used to call it the last hard class, right? I mean, all through, even in special operations, I was in the last hard class. You guys got it so easy. Well, hey, if Ranger School is at a point now where females can make it, all right, man, well, good for her, right? Maybe it wasn't the Ranger School that we went through, I don't know, that we had, I don't know, many, many years ago. And maybe that's where some of the comments might be coming from. I don't know.
Of course it's not, because
But
the RIs in the 70s, their dads used to come home from the factory and beat the shit out of them when they were kids, so they're taking it out on them. Of course it's not the same fucking school that it was back then.
well, it's a little, I guess I don't know anything about it, man. I guess it must be a little different. But I was
Everything
smiling because
changes.
everything was the last hard class. It was always the
No,
last
I
hard
was in the
class.
first easy class, man. I was the first easy class. Everybody before me and after me had it harder than I did. I was the first easy class. So that's why I just spelled that shit. Like, I had buddies that went through the course right next to me, same fucking one roster number apart. They had a much shittier time than I did. And I fucking got a tab, and so did they. So fucking, that's the way it goes. So,
Oh, well, they're supposed to suck. That's why, so you can talk
oh
crap,
yeah, no, it
because
sucked, but whatever. Things just aligned for me and other friends of mine. It didn't align for them. So that's kind of the way it goes. You got to have a little bit of luck in there too. So, um,
yeah.
got
And
to be lucky once in a while.
but look, man. I mean, you get on yourself pretty hard about this, bro. But it's there's a reason for everything that happens, and you just, I've got a young man I'm helping through right now. He's probably going to get not the boot out of the Army. Hopefully, they let him ETS. But I told him, I said, maybe you're just not supposed to be in the Army, bro. Maybe there is a higher purpose for you. So just eat this, all right? You stepped on it, you got a DUI, all right? It wasn't a bad one, but, he's had a couple other issues, and the Army's like, maybe we're done with you. And honestly, they should keep him. The kid is one hell of a soldier. Oh, my God, he's a beast. But, the Army's guy said, maybe this is the Lord's way of saying, I got some other plans for you. And I think, Nick, to your point, all right, you got all the way there. Man, it just, a lot of people say, you can't say it wasn't meant to be, but maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe you were supposed to do something else, but nobody can take the fact away that you got your tap, that you were on an A team, right? And you need to own that. It's good, right? You did a lot, bro, Didn't do everything that everybody else did, maybe. Didn't do everything else that you wanted, but you went as far as the military would allow you with what happened to you. And that's just the way it is, man,
I did everything was asked of me. I'm good with it now. Like, previous me wasn't good with it, but that takes growth and interest, thinking about things and where you're at in life and trying to be better. And I'm trying to
Survivor's
be
guilt.
a different person. But I
Yeah.
was reminded of it, a reason I had never thought of until last night. I was watching the Osama bin Laden manhunt on Netflix documentary that just came out.
A lot of people
And
talking about that.
and it in the back of my head, that I was like, there it is. That's the reason. It's because I'm like, the one thing I didn't get to do as a Green Beret was go to combat. And I saw them. The first part is obviously 9/11, right? And all that. And I went, well, I just didn't get to go and like get back at those motherfuckers. I didn't give any, and then maybe I feel bad because of that, because I didn't get to like take my little bit of revenge. And maybe that was part of it. Like, I was so upset I didn't get to go, and I held on to it for so long. And I had
You
never
gotta
thought
let that
about that
go.
until that point. So,
Gotta let that go.
but I let it, yeah, you just got to go to the next chapter. And I'm I thought all the cool shit I was going to do in the military or was going to be in the military in uniform. And I get to do a lot of cool shit in a polo and a t-shirt now
Mhm.
that I never thought I would do, and to talk to
And,
people and build my own network. And I'm having a lot of
and just
fun.
remember, I mean, I don't know. I think it's less than 1% of this country's ever even served the country. All right. And you can sit there and say, well, I did this, but you could, maybe been in the Space Force, did a little bit less, or which I tell all the kids to go into Space Force now, man, I mean, just because they'll always have careers when they get out of that puppy. But, unless they're a beast and they want to come this way. But, you could have been in the Air Force, right? You took a different course. And guess what? If you would have been in the Air Force, you never would have gotten hurt. you know, can't get
I
hurt
wouldn't have
pumping
got.
gas.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't get in any other
High, but
branch
you're not going to get
either.
hurt.
I couldn't get in any other branch. I got tattoos, and I was too stupid. Apparently, I don't know. I don't know the real reason, but no, man, it's all good. Fuck, man.
Yeah,
So,
it's good to hear,
but
man. That's growth. That's good. That's
you,
good growth, too.
so, speaking of last hard class, says the guy who didn't go to selection, who just showed up to group, said, "Here, I'm here for training." You sure showed up to
No,
training
there
group,
was the Q course. We just didn't
the
have
Q course.
selection back in the early '80s, man. So we just showed up to phase one.
So
No
yeah,
pre-phase, none of that
I
shit.
was
Yeah,
I was in the
just
last hard class. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
but then selection
I don't know
pops
if I
up,
could
and
have made selection. Tell you the truth, man. I don't know. That could have been a bad selection. Sounds like a pain, man. I mean, but it's just that's the way it was back then. I mean, Reagan just came on board. They had to activate 2 new special forces groups, man, and they were pumping Strew because we were gone, man. So they were, and so I think my Q course class, I think we had 300 people in it, and
wow.
but we're all coming out of the infantry, right? Every one of us had a combat arms background for the most part, so it wasn't that hard. And then if you flunked out of medic or commo training, you end up being a Charlie or a Bravo. That's the way it was. They weren't getting rid of. If you passed phase one, dude, you were going a distance. They just had to find a place where you could pass. That's the way it was back then.
Phase one was SUT, right?
That became SUT, right? Yeah. So they just called it phase one. It was like little mini ranger school. You run around for 4 weeks patrolling, and they teach. There was a couple guys that need to be taught how to patrol, and they just run you ragged out of Camp McCall in those tar paper shacks until you ended up, with one long rucksack march. And next thing you know, you're like, all right, man, get ready. Going back to McCall for phase 2.
It's interesting to hear how the course has evolved, but generally, if you'd like step back, it's kind of the same. They move things around here. We've got SUT, the SEER, MOS, Robin Sage, the 4 things that really haven't changed. But you didn't go to
No, there
SEER,
was
did
no
you?
SEER. There was not even a
Yeah,
SEER
you didn't go to
school when I
SEER.
went through.
Yeah, yeah.
No SEER school. The languages, I think, kind of messed things up a little bit, but I understand that people got to get through them. That's kind of good. I do like the fact that everybody's, I think, supposed to go through Halo school. I think that was a great move. Um,
I was the like the class where the top 20% of the class went to Halo school, and then after that it started to be more and more, but I'm not sure because I actually haven't asked any of the newer guys that question
yeah.
yet. But
Wow, that's even good then. I mean, heck, I had to wait years to go to Halo school. And I mean, I was E7. I'd been in SF, maybe not about 4 years, I guess, but I was in SWIC actually 5 years because, a lot of guys, I would just sit there because I was an instructor in the RTL during SEER school. So we had a lot of time off, man. I would sit at that Halo compound and they one of these days said, "Hey, man, we got a slot." It's like, I'm in. And so,
was it at Bragg? Was it Bragg
yep,
then?
still at Bragg. Went to Wright Pat for tower for wind tunnel training, and then our first jump was back into Bragg, and then we just jumped out at McCall the whole time.
That's cool. It's all out at Yuma now. It's all that's the school that everybody wants to be an instructor at, is out in Yuma being a free fall instructor.
Dude, there's
That,
nothing at Yuma, dude. Like dirt and
yep, dude.
cactuses. I don't know.
Yeah.
They can have that place.
My buddy said it was blast. He loved it. So
Well, probably if you like to jump, man, it's probably a dream, a wet dream, man. It's like jumping all the time. Heck yeah, man. Who would want that?
yeah.
But Yuma itself, whew,
Yeah.
Phoenix is fun, but it's so hot out there. I don't even know how they do it, man. It's hot, bro. Stupid
Yeah.
hot.
So you finished up the Q course, and it wasn't like it is today with the the graduation and pomp and circumstance, right? It was more.
No, we had a graduation ceremony, and then we shipped out like 3 days later. A
Yeah.
cool story. I was the only person in my Q course to go overseas. So when I was in the 101st, we were down in Panama going through the jungle operations training course, the school down there, jungle school, right? Which was great. They gave us BB guns. We could shoot each other. Try doing that nowadays, right? They gave us we had these things that would go over our helmets with these clear plastic things, and we'd get to jack up those BB guns, and we'd go on patrol and ambush each other. And oh, dude, it was a lot of fun. So we had some time off, and of course, they all said, stay away from Cologne and this Ancon area of Panama City, because that's where all the girly bars were. So, dude, you don't
So
tell
that's where
people
you're
where to go.
going.
So, but on the way, we stopped at Fort Espinar at that time, which was Fort Gulick. Okay, then it became Fort Espinar. And they had this huge Fiesta Patronales, right? A big, big fair, whatever. And we were running around, and then in the corner of my eyes, I spotted some Green Berets. I was like, oh, dude, I go up to them, and they're sitting there, and there was no special forces tab. They just had their airborne ranger thing and their OG 107s. This guy had his Green Beret sticking out of his cargo pocket. And I'm like, dude, you're so sexy. I'm like, oh my God. And I said, dude, I got my orders in and I'm going to the Q course. I said, what should I do? And they all looked at me and they said, man, if you don't come here, they said, look at this stuff. Man, we got this in El Salvador, and we graded some commies. They had all these T-shirts and stuff. Had all these. So he said, look, man, if you can get down here, hook a crook, you get your ass down there. Stuck in my head. All right. So we get to phase 2.5, where we're doing our commo training. Now we're Morse code than our commo training. And the Q course is basically guaranteed by that. Robin Sage. Who flunks Robin Sage? I don't know. Now they got peer pressure or something like that. I don't
People
know.
now fail Robin Sage. I actually, not to
Really?
interject too much, but I was talking to some people that work in Pineland that have never left Pineland, right? And one of them told me he saw a whole class get dropped, the whole Robin Sage class. They stopped training in the middle and fucking either recycled them or kicked them out. The whole lane.
Wow.
I
Not
couldn't
my
believe
day,
that until
bro.
I asked somebody else. I had to ask somebody else, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've seen that too." I was like, "That's
Wow.
fucking wild." I can't imagine that. I had a great lane. So anyway, continue.
Yeah. I'm like, well, so all right. So the odd, at least that was the gouge back then. All right.
Then
So, man, if you get to phase 3, man, you're pretty much ready to go. I'm like, all right, all I got to do is make my commo shots. Man, I'm the commo guy, right? And I was pretty good at commo, to tell you the truth. So, all right. So down in the basement of what is, I don't know what they call it now, but it's the Puzzle Palace, the old Puzzle Palace, was a girl named Miss Rose. And Miss Rose was the assignment girl for everybody in the Q course. So I
I
found her.
think she was
So
for like 30 years. This
I
woman.
wouldn't doubt it.
Everybody that's been on here that's been similar generation to you has talked about this woman.
Dude, right? And you got to get good with Miss Rose. Because I had gone to Sergeant Major Ivanov, who was at 7th Group. I said, Sergeant Major, I want to go to Panama. He ripped some Spanish at me. I go, what? He goes, oh, you don't speak Spanish? You ain't going to Panama. I'm like, ah, shit. So anyways, I'll do the other route. So I took this bouquet of roses and I said, Miss Rose, I want to go to Panama. She goes, really? I go, yeah. She goes, do you speak Spanish? I go, no. She goes, well, you can't go to Panama. I'm like, ah, shit. So I walk out. A week later, another bouquet of roses, right? Bam. Miss Rose, I really want to go to Panama. She goes, Sergeant Parkman, you're not going to Panama. I'm like, but Miss Rose, I really want to go. She goes, no. She goes, all right. So I'm thinking, I can't learn Spanish, right? I didn't know what a walk-in talking dictionary was at the time. So I learned later on. But so anyways, a month later, there's roses all over her desk, right? And we're getting ready to go to the field, right? So, and she looks at me. She goes, Sergeant Parkman. I go, Miss Rose, I want to go to Panama so bad. She goes, what's your MOS? I go, 18 Echo. We were the first class to get the 18 Echo designator back in 1984. She goes, okay, you're going to go to Panama. I go, really? She goes, yeah, but you're not going to an A team. I'm like, I don't care. So anyways, bigger than hell, what she did is she put me back there. Back then, all the battalions had, it was called a BOP. I think it was a base operations platoon. It was a commo section in the headquarters. So there was a battalion in Okinawa, battalion in Germany, the battalion in Panama, whole battalion. Not this Charlie Company stuff, which I went back to, but a whole battalion. So I got down there, and I was assigned to this commo section. And there was like only 3 or 4 18 Echoes, and we had all these little 31 Charlies and stuff. We ran rat rigs. I did it for about 6 months because I knew upstairs in the second floor where all the A teams were, they didn't have enough 18 Echoes. And bigger than hell. Took me about 4 or 5 months to come knock down or just drinking beer at the NCO club. You're an 18 Echo. I said, yeah, where you at? I'm at the Bob. Well, I didn't know it at that time that Bravo Company was not the company to go to because Charlie Company was all in Colombia. Alpha Company was tearing it up in El Salvador with Kenny McMullen and Troy. I can't. I'll think of Colonel's name in a second. And they were tearing it up. Bravo Company. Well, we had Honduras and every crappy mission that came down the battalion, but I didn't care. I did one mission and they dragged me right back up to that team, 783, and I stayed there till I got out about a couple of years later, and I went to Swick. But yeah, man, Miss Rose, dude, she scared
Yeah, a
me
lot of
away.
people talk
God
about her.
bless her.
Once people have
What's this?
spoken about you, lady at yeah, that's it. The lady at the you got to get your assignment. You got to she doled all of them out. So, but
Wow, she was there 30 years later. That's crazy.
I think so because everybody just refers to her as you got to see the assignment lady. The lady who gives out the assignments and stuff like that. But
You got to get
but at
on her
this
good side.
time, because you go through the course, you probably graduated in what 84, 85.
Yep, Q course started in April of '84 and graduated mid-October, so something like that. I mean, it was phase 1, 2, 1, Morse code, commo training, phase 3, get the group.
Get the fuck
No,
out
don't
of
pass
here.
go. Don't pass go.
So, so you graduate, then you get to you're still at Bragg, but you get to go down south right
Go to
away,
Panama. Yep.
and everybody's still up at Bragg, and
Well, they went to
then
Bragg and
fifth
Campbell.
group's leaving to Campbell, or has left Campbell already, right?
I think, yeah, because third group was standing up. So a lot of guys never got to leave Bragg because they were like the foundation for third group. And seventh group said they sent all their crap to third group, whatever, man. I don't care. But then,
That was
because
the
they were
joke,
standing,
right? Is the worst soldiers from all the other three groups went to make third.
as they say. Then they stood up first group. And
Yeah.
yeah, first and third were the two new groups that they brought on.
I think the term is reactivated. We reactivated first group.
They probably did, yeah.
We did, yeah. Reactivated in '84. Oh, I hope
That
I got
makes
that
sense.
right. Fuck, with
Yeah, I
wearing a
think
first
I
group
got it
hat.
right. There you go.
But
Yeah, makes sense to me, man.
what was that like? Just because had you ever left the country up until this point, and now you're in fucking South America?
Oh, dude, I was in Germany as a young guy, man, for my first
Okay.
year and a half, and then
Yeah.
Panama. I was just talking to my buddy the other day, man. Panama. Oh God, I loved Panama, dude. It was so out of control. I mean, you're talking an entire battalion that was stationed in a foreign country of Green Berets that spoke Spanish, and it was the best experience outside of the war in El Salvador that I have ever had. And then after that would be going back in third of the seventh. It was just an amazing place to be. There was no rules, man. Just do your job, right? Do your job, and it was just it was just, and we were always gone. I mean, I was probably back maybe a third of my time. We were deployed, man. We ran a ranger school in Honduras, did a bunch of work in Ecuador and Peru. We kept busy, man. That's when I first found out about the war in El Salvador. But you had to be an E7 with O&I and a 1-1 in Spanish to be able to qualify, and I wasn't there. I was just an E5. But God, I mean, Panama, Devil's Beach, the entire battalion's there. All the hookers would come out of Cologne and take care of the kids and hang out with the wives. And it was just a culture shock, but it was true Green Beretville, man. I mean, the unit trained so hard. And it was so different. It wasn't like being stationed in Germany because like there's rules in Germany, right? You got to drive so fast. They got cops. Dude, this is Panama, man. There's no police. I mean, you can bribe them if you get pulled over, right? Give them $20, you get out of there. It was just an amazing place to be. What was I? I was 22 years old, 22, 23 years old, and I'm now in Panama. And it was just an amazing experience for a young guy that liked to open up. I'm a culture guy, right? And I like cultures. I started learning how to speak Spanish and hanging out in the girly bars because that's the best way to learn, walking, talking dictionary. And the beer was cold, but we did the unit, man. That unit was so just, I mean, there was just stuff going on every day. People pulling out, you had all the Contras coming back and all that Contra stuff was going on. And there were people, disappearing. We had, I think back in those times, I think we had the old green teams, the Halo Scuba teams that had some special missions back then. And that's all you want to do. The Halo, the scuba guys had their black hats on with their scuba bubbles and their UDT shorts, and they were all cool like the football players on Friday night. But everybody went to the Green Beret Club on that Friday. And that Green Beret Club was right before you got outside the gate. And we would drink, and the beer would just pour through the cracks in that thing and come down. Oh, God. It was so much fun. And it was a great place to grow up as a Green Beret, man, because it was big boy rules, dude. I mean, the first time on a team, bam, here's your class. Start learning Spanish, bro. You're teaching. What? Yep, you're teaching. Get on it, man. And you better make your combo shots. Right, my senior guy was the only dude to ever punch me and never got hit back, and he jokes about it to this day. His name was Rat. We call him Rattery. It was Sergeant First Class Rattery. He was a Vietnam vet. And he heard me. We're in the jungles one day, and we couldn't make comms, and we figured out that the distance was too short for an HF shot. But he was so experienced. He said, "Look, man, we got a high ground plane. I bet you we can put that antenna 4 feet off the ground, bounce the signal off the water table, and make the shot." We did. I was like, wow. And he heard me say minutes instead of mics on the phone, and he slapped the piss out of him. He came out of nowhere. Next thing you know, is I'm on a leg key, man. I'm actually doing Morse code, but I'm talking. I'm getting ready to go. I got my headphones on. And man, next thing you know, my headphones went flying. I'm on the dirt, and he's over me, man. He's giving it to me. He said, "That shit got people killed in Vietnam." I'm like, "Okay, Sergeant." Whatever you say. He's like, "Get your goddamn radio back up." "Yes, Sergeant." And man, it was just a different era. And you had to grow up fast. You really did. And on an A team, and it was, no less than you did in the wars, man, here, after 9/11, no doubt, man. It was just it was just a time that will never happen again. Never happen again. And you can go I just met a guy that was in Panama, and he goes, "Man, fucking Panama." I go, "I know, dude, right?" And so the only people that will talk about a country like I talk about Panama is when you have first guys that were in Okinawa. They're like, "Oh, Okinawa," because they were all in Thailand. Them crazy guys, man, they're all having their fun. But yeah, man,
Sometimes
that's where I
that
went.
fun turns out to be a dude, though.
Yeah, I heard. We don't have that. We didn't have that problem. Well, we did in Ecuador when I went back. We had this one. Yeah, she was pretty hot too. until she said, "Hola." I'm like, "Whoa, dude! I didn't know you could be that good looking." But yeah, they got different mindsets over there, man, for sure.
So, right. You said it can't be, it'll never happen again. It's just, we're too connected now. Like then there's no phones. There's
That's the
barely,
problem. There
that
was,
you're,
dude, if we would have had social media there, nobody would have been married, man. It was crazy, And
you're
yeah,
completely detached from the flagpole. Like you're in
everything.
a different generation down there, separate.
Dude, we
It's
didn't even have a
whatever, in the
general.
years nine. Yeah.
People don't understand that back in 1984, we did not have any generals in special forces. Okay. We had General Barada was our first 1-star. And people are like, "What?" Yeah, man. We never had a general. And we had colonels, they ran the groups. But I don't think, and I'm almost positive that, I mean, we didn't have a special operations command, special force command. There was 5 groups. I don't even know who they reported to tell you. Maybe there was a USASOC, but it wasn't like what we know. I don't even know what the structure was. And because we were, like you said, we were gone, man. We were in Panama. We were on roads. There was no phones, man. Like, in order to call back to my parents, I had to go downtown with a roll of quarters and feed them into this phone and dial and hope that the phone didn't break down. But when we were on trips, I could actually hook up Mass Maritime with the ships, and then we would talk to we would call, they would dial into the States over HF and do it. Yeah,
Really?
it was the Stone Age, man.
That's yeah, that's great. You said something right there and I lost it. But I was going to ask you about like, but no, okay. That's crazy because I could take, my desk at S3 and I can trace it, all of it, all the, 3rd Battalion, 1st Special Forces Group, S3 to 1st Special Forces Command to USAFIC to SOCOM to the Army, right? I knew the whole thing as a soldier, but if you don't even know where it went after the group.
No, man. I honestly, I couldn't even tell you when U.S. SOCOM stood up, man. To tell you the truth, man. I mean, obviously, it was after 1980. It was Eagle One. That's what got everything going. And I think that's when they started realizing that, man, we got all these groups run by colonels. And I don't actually, I couldn't tell you who they reported to. Somebody knows out there. I'm not even going to guess. But outside of our Colonel Pete Stankovich, who ended up, I think he ended up running third group, and our command sergeant major was Spider Parks. Dude, we were left alone, bro. And it was just so when you're an A team, you're downrange, you're in fact you are doing national security, just 12 guys, man, making shit happen, right? Well, we were one battalion and we had responsibility for all of Central South America. And this was Ronnie Reagan years, man. We were going after communists everywhere, bro. Everywhere. I mean, my first trip in Iquitos, Peru, we were so deep into the Amazon jungle, we had no map coverage. We were actually had these the Air Force gave us aviation maps, which showed the river, right? And that's it, grid squares, blue grid squares. Like, what the fuck? So we ended up staying at this quartel and hooking up when they dropped us off in the boonies, and we went running around. Well, the Russians were training. We were with, I think, the Army or the Navy, one of the two, and the Russians were training the other guys. And there was a chance that we would run into each other in the middle of the damn Amazon. So we were locked and loaded. We're up, doing our thing. But we were training, right? We were training with the Peruvians who, they were teaching us how to survive in the jungle. We were teaching them how to shoot, right? Which they didn't know. And it was a really good relationship, man. But yeah, I mean, those were the types of missions we went on, dude. It was just crazy. So many times that you're dealing with military that didn't know what a PMCS was. I mean, we were jumping Hondurans. They didn't even have reserves. They had blankets. They would pack. we were jumping with, and we were doing we were running a ranger school, and we were talking to the jump masters, and we're like, "Hey, man, you kind of blew through that, checking the." The handle on your reserve jump mask, all that." He goes, "Oh, we don't have reserve parachutes." Like, "What's in the reserve?" He goes, "Blankets." He says, our soldiers are too stupid to pull the handle." I'm like, "What?" Says, dude, it was gosh, man. I mean, the stories that I have from just being in Central South America, and then and the girls are hot. But I think the most beautiful thing about it is that eventually everybody learns to speak Spanish, and now the culture becomes that much more endearing to you, right? That you can communicate. It's not like, the few guys on the 18 that might speak Arabic that could speak to an Arab, right? Or anything like that. Like, most of us, if not all of us on our 18s, float some degree of Spanish, and we got onto it, right? So we were not only just stationed there, we were in the culture. Like, all of our guys a lot of them were married to, foreign women from different countries around the area, and it was just, I think from that perspective, I think that's one of the reasons it was so much fun. I loved it.
Yeah, seventh group. At that time, did you guys have any Portuguese speakers or no? Just all Spanish?
No, I went to DLI for Portuguese. I reenlisted, and they owed it to me, but then I came down on orders for the war in El Salvador, so they delayed it until after I got done with my time there. So we did not, at least, well, I was in 3rd Battalion, 7th Group. We had no Portuguese exposure at all. Maybe back at 1st or 2nd Battalion at Bragg, they might have had some Portuguese speakers, but I wasn't aware of anybody when I was there.
Yeah, somebody that I had on the show. James McGinnis, actually, I think. Do you know him?
Father
He said,
McGinnis, did he have a big head?
no,
No,
but
there was a
he said,
McGinnis we had back in the day. We called him Father. He looked like a priest, man. He was a great guy.
he's that there was like one company that spoke Portuguese or something like that, but it wasn't for one company or one team or something like that. But
Could be. Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't
but
know.
no. Well, I mean, yeah, like going back, like you're just completely detached, down there. And once you get away from that, and people joke about the groups, like, yeah, okay, yeah, first groups, we're kind of weird, but we're really far a fucking way from the flagpole. And seventh group is, can be pretty far. 10th group's far, and third's right there, right next to Special
Dude,
Forces
they eat
Command.
it.
So
Poor
you're
guys.
you're just right next to the flagpole. I don't think you're going to have the same type of fun that we are.
No, no, I feel for those guys, man. And yeah, they bite the bullet pretty hard there, man. And they're great. I mean, dude, they're good dudes, man. My one of my best friends retired out of there. I mean, they're all great guys, man. But the group experience is different. I mean, you go to 10th group, and I was a Sergeant Major 10th group, man. God, that's a beautiful base there. Whew, Fort Carson. Huh. Compared to Bragg or Campbell, woo.
Yeah. But what
Yeah.
your generation, right? Seventh was the place to be if you wanted a CIB, right?
Yeah, there was no like wars. Like we didn't get our CIBs for El Salvador till like 5 years after the war ended. 1995, I think is when they issued them. There was no CIB. So like we volunteered for that war because we wanted to go to war. As a matter of fact, they couldn't find enough people to go. Probably because they didn't give out badges. But if you wanted to go see if you wanted to at least get the best shot of getting hurt, or I mean, of going to kick some ass, possibly getting hurt or die, right? You went to El Salvador, and that was what we had. There was nothing else going on at the time. Then of course Iraq one changed it a little bit later, and then you had and the events. You had Panama, and El Salvador went on through all these. I don't know. I can't remember what Panama was. You had the Grenada, right? You had some really cool things to be a part of. If you were in the right unit at the right time, though, you missed it, right? Like I missed the Panama operation because I was in SWIC. I had already left, right? But El Salvador was always there. And if you wanted to go, there were 3 qualifications. You had to be an E7, you had to get O&I, and you had to have at least a 1+1+ in Spanish. And they were looking, man. They were looking for people. I'm like, why are they looking for people to go to war? And it was just, I don't know why, but that was, well, after I left Panama, that was my mission. I'm going to get to El Salvador. And I still had to get all those 3 of those things. And I got them while I was at SWIC. And as soon as I was out of O&I took that Spanish test, and I had orders literally probably 3 months later.
You set a goal for something, and you're like, I'm going to do this, and Green Beret is just going to figure out how to fucking do it, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, that was even more out of control than Panama in a lot of ways. All a 28-year-old combat advisor all by himself with no social media, so it was to do whatever you
Alone and
want, man.
alone and unafraid.
Two
What
battalions of two battalions of counterinsurgency troops under your control, kinda.
what what point was there a point in your 18 years in SF where you finally stopped? When was the first point that you stopped and realized what that first sergeant had done for you all those years ago?
Dude, honestly, man, I'm a very selfish guy. A lot of it has to do with my childhood. And I never, I always wanted to give credit to myself, right? It's like I became a Green Beret. I did this, I did that. And it really wasn't until I started growing up and looking back at all the blessings that I have in my life. And if, you know, I've been blessed, man, with the companies that I've been able to start, the exits that I've had, that's my family above all, my son, my wife, my daughters, playing rugby all these years, and then being, going to Panama twice, and then being able to go a year and a half in El Salvador, and just not being in America for all those years. It's like what, 9 years of not being in America, right? And it wasn't until a couple of years ago, actually, about 3-4 years ago, I think it was before my son died. And I'm like, man, dude, I am one blessed guy. And I said, if it wasn't for that first sergeant who made me make that decision, all these, and I've told this story a lot, not this story, but I was like, dude, I got to thank him. I'm going to find him. And my wife, we were at a wedding, and I don't know, probably 10 years ago, and her friend, her cousin specializes in finding people. She couldn't find them, so that's when I hired my PI guy. But it was later on in life. I had a lot of growing up to do, man. You know, I mean, I was single my whole time in the army because I didn't want. I mean, I don't know how my buddies did it, man. They were dads, they were husbands. I could barely be a single guy, and to take on that responsibility. And then, I didn't want anything to impact what I wanted to do in my military career. I was just a very selfish guy back in those days. So to your point, it took me a long time to understand what that first sergeant did for me. And to tell you the truth, I've helped a lot of men and women the same way. And I pride myself on, I never ask for validation. People ask me for a hand. They ask me for advice. God puts them in my path a lot. And it's a gift. It's a gift to be able, just like that first sergeant did for me. And he didn't even remember who I was, bro. Think of how many young men he helped straighten out. He couldn't even remember me, right? And so I look at it thankfully as a blessing when I can meet somebody and do something for them like that guy did for me. But it did take me a long time.
Yeah, I posted a reel the other night about, the interactions that your soldiers have with you will never they will never forget them. You might as a leader or something because you're in charge. You're supposed to be taking care of the people that report to you. So
Hmm.
that's what you have to do, and that's your job all the time. But for that individual, that one nice thing that you do for them, they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. They might not appreciate it, but eventually, someday, they're going to wake up and go, that person did for me more than I could have ever done for myself. And they'll never forget it. Like I said, Commander and Sergeant Major, they kept me in 3 years. I was able to stay in 3 more years, and I could have got medically retired once the concussion, uh, the lady at the TBI clinic found out how many concussions I had in my life. They were going to medically retire me. So fuck, I got to not see you ever again. So I went and hid out in Korea. So, and they didn't have to do that for me to keep me away from getting med boarded. And then, so yeah,
Good
we
people.
should never forget those things. Yeah, they did. I mean, it's great. And hopefully that's what I'm able to do now is tell their stories and other people learn from it. And that's my little piece. And getting better at talking and being in front of people and helping them share their message or get their business notoriety or something like that. Just help other
Yeah.
people and not help.
Uh,
I don't. I'm having a fucking great time with it, and hopefully, I can help other people do the same and meet a lot of cool people while in the process. But yeah, more.
no, this is a great venue, Nick. I mean, you're giving people a chance to come on and talk about things that, either mean something to them or talk about times, that just don't exist anymore, right? And give people hope that look, things turn around. Army's always going to be the army. I think we're all hoping that because of these wars, we kind of go back to that Vietnam vet area, like, yeah, let's get some, and we did. Oh, don't worry, we got a lot. I just think that a lot of the boys and girls just thought there was just you know that we could have done it a little differently, right? But you're allowing people to tell their stories, present their perspective, which is what a discussion's all about. There is no right or wrong in life. I've learned this. I live it every day. There are perspectives, and those perspectives are well earned. And I think when we respect each other's perspectives, that's when we move forward as society, as people. When we don't, and a lot of you might think that's foo-foo, and I really don't give a shit. You can kiss my butt. But I honestly believe that until and when you respect people, no matter who they are, that life moves on. It's a beautiful thing when we respect each other, and we all deserve that. No matter who you are, to tell you the truth.
Absolutely. Be a positive note in someone's day rather than, put them down or diminish their accomplishments. Like, I did this. Good. Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Tell people about
Mhm.
it. And if people try and shit on you, fuck those people.
Yeah, it's something that we're all working through. But I'll tell you, as people get older, they do, and I think even younger, a lot of people talk about these generational differences. My perspective on it, whether, people say, they'll never fight in the army or whatever, is that a lot of us, my generation, really didn't know what love was. Okay. We were raised by hard men who didn't know what love was generationally. We're talking generations of men that didn't know love. And they've done studies that show that literally most people that end up in special forces or special operations have had really crappy childhoods, right? This is all about proving ourselves and showing to the world that, we can be. And that's a big part of the story for me too, right? I mean, I grew up in a very, very abusive household. My dad, is, beat the hell out of me all the time. And it was, wasn't a lot of fun. And, when you live in fear of your father and he tells you he's going to kill you and all kinds of dumb stuff. And the sexual molestation that went on in the 70s is just unbelievable, dude. It's crazy. It was such a sick place, man. And, a lot of us are surviving that through what we're doing as special operations soldiers, male or female, right? Getting best of the best, 82nd, whatever, getting out there. You just joined the military, and but there's, but this generation that we've raised, these kids know what love is. We love our children like the last 20, 30 years. These kids know what love is. And it's a big difference to know what love is than to not know what love is. And it changes their perspective on everything, whether I'm joining the army or I'm going to fight and get dirty or whatever. And love is the absolute most powerful thing in the world. I don't care. I will argue all day with anybody and I will respect your opinion because you're a human too. But love is the most powerful emotion in the world. And and people that have known me for years look at like, is that Parkman? It's Parkman. Sorry, man. But and these kids know what that is. And that's why you're seeing them be different. They don't fight. They don't confront. They don't argue. They respect each other. I've got a stepson right now that does not know what a black person is because he is colorblind. Okay. I was raised by a bigot. I had to teach myself. I had the only Yes F company with two black people in it. One of them is still my good friend, right? And we have to get over a lot of the stuff that we have. But those hard beginnings also produced the warriors that won these last two wars. And we won them. I don't give a shit when anybody says we kicked their ass. We didn't get a lot out of them. And in my opinion, they never should have been started. And we've got a lot of dead kids that should still be here right now. But you guys did kick a lot of ass. And, but, you know, can we keep filling the military with the kind of people like us that we need to get to that battlefield, survive, and get back? It's going to be harder every generation because these kids know what love is and they believe in it. And they don't believe in violence. They don't believe in hate. They don't believe. You look at all the people that's arguing on the line, they're all old people, man. The kids aren't part of this right versus left argument. They're not in it. They're not in it. Everybody that's arguing is over 40, in my opinion. Just saying, okay? They're all old people, okay? All the Trumpers and the Bideners, whatever you are. I'm in the middle. I'm a full-on independent. I'm taking a knee out of it. But, the thing is, it's the old people that are arguing. All right. The young people are like, what is going on? Can we just get along here and go do something for our kids? Right. Can we do something? And that is my perspective. I just think that it's going to be more and more difficult to find those men and women. I mean, but on one hand, to fight the dirty wars, right? To do the special operations stuff, to do the infantry stuff, the tanking and all that. What's going to be it easier is the future of the military. You look at the Ukraine is U.S. Space Force, cyber intel space. That's how we're going to fight wars, I think. There's still going to be a need for those ground pounders and mean guys and all that. Got it, man. I mean, I was one, right? But I honestly think that we are blessed with generations of kids that know what love is, and it's changing our world. And us old people better get used to it. It says in the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, it ain't going to be a guy with a rifle that inherits the earth. There's going to be that kid with that computer and that knows how to hack that takes all your money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's where it's
You,
going, man. But this is an old man just talking right now. But I don't like a lot of the divisiveness, man. And I think the current administration is doing a lot of good things. I mean, shaking it up, man. That's for sure, man. Shaking it up. But as I look at the people that are doing all the yelling and screaming, like, I don't know, man, you guys, that's not the young people that are doing the screaming. And who knows what they're going to do? That might be that next third party right there. They get mad. I don't know where
we'll
they're
see.
going to go, which way they're going to go. Train.
We'll see. And you're right about the Space Force. As I said earlier, unconfirmed, they're getting rid of the sixth team in the company, but they're also talking about adding a 13th and 14th member of the ODA as like an electronic warfare sergeant, I think, or something
Need to.
like that. So,
Need to. I mean,
which
what's
sounds
the
like
18 Fox?
yeah, sounds like a great idea to
Well, the
me.
18 Echo, I mean, you can only do so much, comms, and somebody's got to help that guy. I mean, that guy now, he's got all this responsibility for all the communications and the electronic stuff and setting up firewalls and all that. Yeah, you need, I mean, the fact that we still think that, launching a script kiddie tool that takes the NSA is kind of stupid, if you ask me, man. I mean, every A team should be able to launch that stuff.
Well, not my department. I will make sure the shitters work and that the roof isn't leaking, and I'll handle.
Oh, and by the way, go to war with the Air Force, man. That first invasion when I went with them, man, the first things up with the air-conditioned poopers and the beer tent, man. It was amazing. I was like, wow, I'm going to go to war with you guys all the time, man.
Experiences may vary. Yeah, experiences may vary.
Yeah,
Hey, we're wrapping up here. I got 5 questions I ask everybody, and then I'll cut you loose. How's that sound?
go for it.
All right, man. What is your response to thank you for your service?
Usually it's thank you for yours. And I just say thank you, Thank you for recognizing it, man. That's it. I mean, I kind of humble about it, man. I really.
Don't get that one a lot.
No, I mean, people say thank you for your service. I say thank you. I mean, there's something, man, I've been retired 24 years, right? So, and I've seen a lot of really cool stuff in my life, and I am so blessed for it. And I'm so thankful. If I didn't get in the Army, man, I'd be dead. I'd be dead or in jail, right? And so when people say thank you for your service, I'm like, thank you for the opportunity to serve because it probably saved my life.
What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
Now, to me, that would be tenacity. Special operations guys just don't know how to quit, dude. You know, they just persevere in the worst, most horrendous circumstances. They just figure out how to make stuff happen, man. I mean, they do. I mean, that's why you can put 12 men in the middle of a country and say, "Hey, change the country." Okay, we'll do it. Fine. Just leave me alone. Don't dial in. But I'd say perseverance, tenacity is one of the characteristics. There's many, but I say that is what to me differentiates the special operators. They just don't quit. They don't quit on anything. They don't quit on their jobs. They don't quit on their families. They don't quit on their friends. They don't quit on this country, and neither do the rest of the military. No, I'm not saying that you don't, but special operators. I mean, it's that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we were if we didn't have that drive. I know where it comes from, childhood, whatever it is. Thank God we have it, and thank God we have our special operators.
What's the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change? It wouldn't change where you are now.
Dude, that's easy, man. So in 2000, just before I put in my retirement paperwork, because I was told I would never make a command sergeant major, which didn't care. We out trained every company in the regiment, man. I mean, we took the first guys to Kosovo. We got back 6 months later. We rolled right into wet, cold weather training, J sets. And then, and then we had to jump back all those months, right? So one of my guys, Bob Budaris, man, good friend of mine today, figured out that we could catch a hop to Indian Springs, which is right outside Las Vegas, and we could jump back there. So we did. We land the company. We got all our support troops there, and we're like there, and we're jumping. The second day, we go to jump. We jumped in the morning. Winds are too high. We have nothing to do till that next morning. So I called a formation. In front of me, I said, "Sir, I'm going to call formation." "What, Sergeant Major?" I said, "You'll understand. Come on. Shut up, Sergeant Major." So we have a formation, right? They're all sitting there. I go, "Men," and I think we had a couple females there. I said, "Do you see that shining city over there called Las Vegas?" They said, "Yes, Sergeant Major." I said, "Your mission tonight is to assault that city over there, and you will drink all their beer, and you will take all their women, and we will pillage and have so much fun tonight. And the only thing you need to do is be here tomorrow. I don't care about your physical condition. I don't care if you're covered in vomit. I don't care what you are, and you team sergeants will get everybody back here, and we will get on that plane tomorrow and go back. Is that clear?" They're like, "Yes, Sergeant Major." I said, "All right, get in the vans." We went downrange, and oh my God, 11 o'clock at night, man, we ended up at this one bar. They're coming in, they got girls on their shoulders. They go, "Sergeant Major, I got two of them." And they're jumping around, and the beer's flowing, and the camaraderie, and it was just an amazing night. And unfortunately, it took me until I was even a sergeant major to start growing up. But that's when I realized that my men respected me, that I took care of a lot of them in ways that I had a unconventional approach to leadership. I had the best company commander in the world, I relished that moment. And then, about a month later, and almost a fist fight with my command sergeant major, which is a whole nother story. They told me that I was going to not be a command sergeant major, and they were going to send me back to the conventional army because I didn't fit in. I was too crazy, so I decided to go ahead and retire.
That's all right. I love that story. That's pretty good. I like
It
that.
was a great story.
What is the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
The best piece of advice. The best piece of advice I received during the career. I received a lot of good advice. The one that I think set me up for success the most was my team sergeant, who convinced me to do SWIC right after my first tour. I was in Panama, and he's like, "Parkman," he said, "you're a young guy, man." He said, "Don't go back to 7th Group, go to SWIC." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Look, you're going to make rank very fast here. We make rank very, very fast. If you don't do a tour in SWIC, your second tour is going to be on a team. And then by the time you get to SWIC, you're going to be in E8, and that's going to be your team sergeant time. You want that?" I go, "No, sir. No, sergeant." He goes, "Go to SWIC." So I applied to SWIC, and then I got out, and I got everything I needed to go to El Salvador, which set me up for DLI, then 3rd Battalion Special Forces Group, and then back to 7th Group. Then I did some time in SMU as a support guy until somebody figured out that with 4 Article 15s and a DUI, I'd make a great E9, and then I ended up in 10th Group. He set me up.
Like nobody told you anything, but I've said on the show many times, there is nothing wrong with the B team or going to battalion or going to SWIC. You learn things that you're not going to learn on a team. And if you're smart and do the SF guy thing, you can learn how to use those staff sections and those other places that you went to your advantage when you need to do stuff back on a team.
That's true. But don't be spending time on a B team you can spend on an A team if you can avoid it.
I would
Get the B time.
I would kill 3 people right now just to go back to a B team and do the rest of my time. So it's different experiences for different people.
Different experience, different period. They absolutely.
So, yeah. All right, last one, man. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Jumping. I used to hate the jump, man. God dang it. Only until I jumped enough, So, I remember that shit. I was the heavy drop leader in Halo school. And, Halo school is Halo school. You get through it. And then I went to El Salvador. I went to DLI, and I ended up back in C37 in Panama. So I got to start jumping again. My first jump was a goddamn halo jump, and I had jumped in 2 years. I'm like, oh God, I had to get all ramped up, and it was just it's just like anything. If you do it enough, and when I did jump a lot, like I tested the MC7 ram air chute for special use of sock, and then you get used to it. But man, I did not like jumping like when you had to jump every 90 days. Not a big fan of it, dude. Sorry. And I'm still not a big fan of it. I actually did a halo jump in my first company. We ended up buying an airplane fleet. And one day they go, hey, you want to make a jump? Of course, you're not going to say no, right?
No.
So I ended up slapping on an MC4 or whatever the heck they were back then. It was like 2010. Hadn't jumped in 10 years. I'm like, and I told the guy, I said, you better hold on to me, dude. He goes, all right, Sergeant Major. They were still calling me Sergeant Major. So yeah, I just, jumping, man. I used to be
I
afraid
bet
of dying,
everybody
but I'm
calls.
not afraid of dying anymore. So that's kind of cool.
No? What are you afraid of now?
I'm afraid of not of letting my son down, and I think a lot of people need to know this before I go. I lost my son to suicide. That through the grace of God, we ended up finding out was, that was due to his exposure in contact sports. And that's why I'm probably one of the most researched individuals or knowledgeable knowledgeable people on the issue of repetitive brain trauma. And you need to reach out to our foundation, the Mac Parkman Foundation, to understand more. I wrote the only book for parents. It's for free. Download it. You don't want to be in my shoes, man. And that's what I live in fear of, Nick, is every day. I try to get people to understand the risks of contact sports, risks of repetitive blast exposure. I am on General Fenton's. I'm a informal advisor to the general on brain trauma and related mental health issues. And I pride myself on the fact that he's allowed me to talk to him on it. But I know I'll see my son again, and I don't want to let him down. So that's what I live in fear of every day.
No, I love that. I couldn't find a way to bring it into the conversation. I also, uh, slightly scares me. Like I have a lot of concussions, and then we kind of hit on the drinking. That helped me more than anything with my head and like some issues with stopping drinking. I didn't know, but that was as affecting me as much as it was because I was fine and until I wasn't. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm doing all right now. I also don't get hit in the head a lot anymore, but a lot of things have evened out over time. So I do want to tell you, ever since Denny told me about you and looked you up, I really look up to what you're doing, and you're you're doing the things that I hope I'm doing down the road, and having the effect that you're having. So,
Dude, that's what I tell people all day. God puts doors in your path. That's what we talked about earlier. And you can either open a door or wondered what the heck was on the other side. And I suggest to people, open those doors. I'm here where I'm at. I've been very blessed. I've had, a bunch of companies and because I opened doors, I kept opening those doors and I'm going to keep opening them. But I want your audience to know that, man, if you have anybody that's suffering from mental health issues that's been in the military, please call me, write to me, text me, I don't care, so we can talk and figure out if it's brain trauma related. Because if it is, we can make it better. Okay, it's not the end of the world. And even if if athletes that are suffering, all my NFL friends are disasters, but we can help them. But you can't get help if you don't know. So if you're struggling, suffering in silence, reach out, man. It's the biggest problem we have as a community is there's so much brotherly love and sisterly love here, and we don't take care of each other because a lot of it is because we don't talk. So drop the stigma. There's nothing wrong. If you're mentally ill, I fell apart 3.5 years ago, man. I found my way back, and there's a lot of ways we can help deal with this. So, Nick, and I'll come back and talk about that. I know here we're talking about spec op stuff and having fun. I got it, and
No,
But
I want to do a long
yeah,
interview with you and just kind of bullshit and get to know each other. But I see the show evolving into people will come on, do a long interview, 2 to whatever hours. But then, hey, Nick, I want to come back on. Okay, let's do 45 minutes. I'll get my notes together. You get your notes together. What are we talking about? And we'll hit it
yeah,
like that. So there'll be different versions of the show under the same name. And I've got a
no,
plan. It's all on this side of my brain and going on. So,
you're
but
doing a great job, man. Keep
no,
it
and
up.
then
This is a
like
service that we need.
commitment, like, yeah, you can have conversations, and if people hear other people talking about it, it'll be in their head as well, and it'll be at the front of their mind when they're thinking, oh, I've got this going on. But you're right, the opportunities walk through the doors, right? I made the decision 3 days ago that everything I do up until December 31st of this year is trying to make this brand profitable to where I can live on it, to where I never have to ask anybody anything ever again. I can work for myself and do my own thing. So that is what I'm going to do obsessively for the rest of the year. And that's what I'm going to try and do. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So,
We'll keep bringing on cool people to talk to, man. I'm not one of them. I'm just an old guy, but you're doing a great service, allowing people to tell their tales, and and giving them a chance to either educate, inform, or help people understand where people come from. So keep it up, man. You're doing great work, man.
how can everybody find you on social media?
You can go to X. I am Bruce Mac Parkman, and I tweet a little bit right now only because I'm tweeting to the same people all the time, and we all know each other, so it's no fun. LinkedIn, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I My son's website is the Mac Parkman Foundation. It's www.mpfact.org. We have the only summit on repetitive brain trauma in September here in Tampa. We also are hosting a massive party at the Army Navy game. If you ever heard of a band called Fuel, they're our opening act with Lit. We're going to raise money for veterans' mental health and the foundation. And then I own a really cool data analytics company called Blue Fusion. So if you're out there and you've got problems with data, or we donate our software directly to any nonprofit dealing with child exploitation, sexual or human trafficking. So if you know anybody that's in that space, and I know a lot of spec ops guys are doing a lot of this stuff on the side, my software, if you ever know what I2 Analyst Notebook is, picture I2 Analyst Notebook on steroids, bro. I own the patents to that, and I donate it. So if you need me to help you find really bad people, contact our company, and that's bluefusion.com. So, Nick, thanks a lot for letting me come on and talk a little bit about myself, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you can come on my show anytime, just like anybody else. As long as you got to do is send me a text and we can record. I'm having such a fun time, man. I'm getting a little over uh, my back. I could release a 3 hour episode every day for the next month, and I still wouldn't run out of episodes.
Ah,
So,
man.
you got anything for me, man?
No, dude. I mean, honestly, just like I said, man, keep doing what you're doing right now. Let the community know that you're out there. I'll definitely, push the podcast out. It's a side of me that a lot of people don't see because I am a businessman. I am a devout man of the Lord. But I think that you're doing an amazing service, letting people come in and talk about the way it was. Let us old people, kind of talk about, you know, what our perspectives are. And but it's those younger people that are going to make the difference as this world turns, man. So keep it up, man. Doing a great job. Really appreciate you.
Do my little part. Well, bye, everybody.